played in the NFL in the past,
Yeah.
you would have your Pro Football Reference player page open all the time? Like, would you have a tab that would just never leave your computer of like the record of your career? Would you do that? It seems unhealthy.
Yeah, no.
No?
I don't think while I was playing, nor certainly after. No,
All right.
No, I don't think so.
Like, you know the site well enough? Do you know, like, when you open Pro Football Reference, they've got those 12 headshots, any reference
Sure,
site.
yeah.
And, you can sort of, they
Tackle
seem like
with
they're
their
just there at
first-round
random.
pick.
And
Walter
you
Nolan.
can sort of try to guess who they are. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy in a Bills jersey today that I didn't recognize, and his name is Leonard Hankerson. So I clicked on Leonard Hankerson, who played one game for the Bills in 2015. Maybe Eric knows him.
I'll bet he did.
And
He would have been on that team.
I thought if I was this guy, I might just have my page open all the time. Just to sort of bask in the fact that I was in the league. But I don't know. Probably not, again, healthy to do that. Eric, did you make it out of Atlanta?
I did. Yeah, I made it out of Atlanta. That traffic down there is something serious. I know we talked on the pregame.
Yeah.
But, it's between Louisville and Buffalo. I'm not rushing to sit in traffic like that anytime soon.
Was it an adventure getting out yesterday?
It was, but it was kind of self-inflicted because I ended up staying down there and playing golf at a pretty rare golf course down there to get on. And then I decided I think I could make an earlier flight and get home sooner. And so, yeah, it was kind of an adventure getting out, but I just made it.
We had no issue rescheduling you to today, so we're happy to have you today. Monday night, Eric, I mean, it might not surprise you to learn our phone lines are flooded since yesterday at least. Fans are concerned, and it's 2 losses in a row, which we've seen before. How concerned would you be about the overall here, just generally speaking, about how the season has gone or is going?
I definitely have my concerns. I don't have a lack of faith that we can get it turned around, but I certainly have concerns. And some of the concerns that we had going into the year are coming to fruition. And then there's injuries and kind of the unknown of, what's Hoyt going to be? We're putting a lot of stock into him coming back and changing things. And Ogunjobi, I mean, at least another body at defensive tackle is strong. And, he's had good moments in his career. And what's he going to look like when he gets back out there? And, other guys that, a Max Hairston, can he make an impact on this defense if or when he comes back? So we're putting a lot of stock into some of the unknowns, but, I do have faith that, they'll figure it out. And, I just think every year is different. Even if you have a lot of continuity and a ton of experience and you've been to the playoffs and won your division 5 years in a row, every year is different in the sense that, you get a few new faces on either side of the ball and certain schemes may or may not work. You can have different struggles. Players could have different struggles than they've had in years past. And so, I think it's a situation of us figuring all those things out. The last couple of weeks, we've had some really untimely penalties that, maybe they're an anomaly and maybe it's a lack of discipline, but, that last game, we jump off sides or we're lined up off sides on a sack right before that 81-yard Bijan run. If it's second and long, does that run happen later? Maybe. The fumble on the first play of the game where we're lined up off sides, does that, change things if we recover that? And so, I looked earlier today before doing One Bills Live, and it's us and the Chiefs tied for the best odds to win the Super Bowl, as most expected heading into the season, but it's, been different paths maybe than some would have thought.
For sure. The Chiefs went through some version of what the Bills are going through now right off the hop of the season. And their offense looked all out of sync, but then they got Worthy back and things seem to be going much more smoothly there now. Eric, in the last half an hour or so, we were talking about the defense and the comfort level that there would have been for everyone involved with Hyde and Poyer back there, as sturdy and strong and excellent as they were for as long as they were. And, last year came and went, and they got by. They made it, just as far as they ever had when those guys were back there. So, okay. I think it was during your segment on One Bills Live when I was on my way in, I heard the three of you, Chris and Steve and yourself, talking about just the way the zone defense looks right now. And I don't know if it was you that made the point or Steve, that there's just not a lot of reacting. Guys are getting to the part of the field they're supposed to cover that they're responsible for, but they're not reacting to anything really quickly enough anyway. I shouldn't say not reacting. I mean, I'm sure they're getting there eventually, but it seems a little slow. The whole thing just seems a little slow.
No, I'm with you. And, whether that's, a lack of experience on the back end where in time they start getting some of those breaking routes, whether it's been how bad we've been against the run, so our linebackers are up, sucking up into the line of scrimmage more. At times the pass rush hasn't been the issue. Other times, certainly some pressure on the quarterback could have helped those guys on the back end, but there's other times where guys are winning quick. Bosa, I'm watching him throughout the game have an opportunity to make plays, but there's wide open guys in the zones where they're able to hit them. And then you hear from Sean McDermott in his yesterday, I believe, when he said, they asked him about the second half adjustments, and he said we ran more man-to-man. And so, kind of what I was saying where, you got to figure out your team each and every year, even if you do have continuity. This might become more of a man-to-man defense where we got to get in people's faces with man defense because we're just, I don't know, there's those throws across the middle right behind the linebacker seem too easy. And then there's other times where guys are just sitting in soft spots of the zone where it's almost like, man, I'm so afraid I'm going to make a mistake. So I'm just going to get to my spot. And as long as someone doesn't come here, I'm not going to be at fault here. But when you play like that, you're not going to make plays either.
Right.
It happens offensively that through 6 games, the numbers have pretty much come down every week. Not exactly a straight line, but points and yards, it's mostly correct. We've been talking about, among other things on the Bills offense, that subject is James Cook, and there's always a conversation to be had about his usage. And there's also like whether they should throw to him. I think, Eric, that generally, I feel like if my running back is catching 4 or more passes a week, I'm probably a bad team. And my quarterback just doesn't run. I think there are probably lots of plays where it's 3rd and 4 or something, and Allen's just going to go. It's that if Cook is even on the field on a 3rd down play. Do you have a feeling about just how that part of their offense, what it is or isn't? And might it be something that because it's the bye and they've lost 2 games, or maybe something else here for you is what they turn to try to get better results on offense?
No, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm not saying they need to split out James Cook and use him as a slot receiver because look at him. He's such a good athlete. Maybe he could play slot or, be another weapon on the outside. But, they're looking at everything right now. And, I think offensively, depending on who's back in these coming weeks, you likely have to lean into that run game and that power run game, especially to then open up play action. And that kind of might be your MO until you can get some of these guys going in the pass game because right now, whether it's, Josh, them not separating or Josh not being on the same page at times when someone sits and he leads them or, the pass rush gets to him and, in that time someone was open, not having a go-to guy, not having, maybe ultimate trust in those guys has led to just a pretty mediocre pass game so far this season. And, has Josh been perfect? No, but we all know who he is as a player at this point of his career. And so, how do you get that pass game going until, Keon grows up and becomes who we hope he could be, or you get Palmer back or, add somebody or Gabe Davis, whatever it may be, you might have to lean into that to then open up the pass game. And whether it's going back to some RPO type stuff that have worked in the past or whatever it may be, they're gonna self-scout hard this week and say, here's where we're at. And I'll say this right now, and I said it on One Bills Live earlier, I'd like to see them move Keon around more. See what you got in him. I mean, I'm not saying take all of Shakir's slot reps away, but move him around so he's not just getting stuck on the team's, number one cornerback on the opposite side and then throwing him kind of 50-50 balls along the sideline. I'd like to see him involved more, whether it's motion or similar to the first play of the game where we throw it to Palmer off a play action. I'd like to see that be Keon on those routes just to see what we got.
Yeah, that sort of dovetails into what I wanted to ask you about next, and it was them not having seemingly a pivot to handle Atlanta's blitz. I mean, it seemed like the first play is a good indicator. They kept, I think, one of the tight ends stayed in to chip, and so there was extra effort to slow the blitz down, and they got the look they wanted, and they threw it down the field. But that takes a while to develop. They didn't really ever have those quick-hitting, hot-type reads baked into their game plan. And I think that's kind of weird considering that Atlanta came in with the reputation of being the heaviest blitz team in the league. I don't know. What do you think was going on there, and is there room for that? Because I would think other teams are going to look at what Atlanta did here and feel like, all right, we can handle them on the outside, and we'll just send 5 and 6 and see if they can handle it. So I think they're going to have to find a pivot pretty quick.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a copycat league, and I wish I had a better answer other than, I don't know per se what was called to,
right.
know if it's Josh in those instances or it's the receivers and Josh is looking his way and he's not sitting in the correct zone off the hot, or guys on the outside aren't recognizing the blitz to then break their route where they needed to. Just being completely honest, I can speculate, but, it'd be probably even a less than 50-50 shot that I'm right. I will say there were times where, guys would get beat up front, where guys are moving around. They have some talented pass rushers. You don't know exactly where they're going to be, and that happens. There was times where I felt like Josh could have made a play, and he either didn't pull the trigger quick enough. I think when they looked at it, there was 4 sacks, and whoever credits these things credited Josh with 2 of the 4 sacks. But no, you got to have answers. And late in the game, they kept 2 extra blockers in because it seemed like we didn't know which way they were coming from. Okay, well, then we'll just keep in 7 blockers. But when you only have 3 guys out on a route and you don't have a ton of confidence that those guys can go out and make a play for you, I think it was Elijah Moore, Shakir, and Coleman, no one was open. And so, yeah, you got to find those answers. And a lot of times, the way we've done it in the past is to beat those guys with the throw. Keep 5 guys out there, and I think we talked about this on pregame, just knowing that they're the heaviest blitz team in the league, that a lot of times Josh beats those guys with a throw, or, okay, there's one guy coming to my right, I'll handle him, and I'll get around him. And they didn't have those answers Monday.
With Eric Wood on the Wester Hotline, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Eric normally with us on Mondays, but Monday night game and then yesterday got busy, so we're happy to have him today. Just trying to maybe ask you to sum it all up here. Earlier, I used the word concerned, right? And you said, well, I think there are concerns, but I have faith that they'll get it right. Mostly, I mean, to paraphrase. And this is another year. It's been actually every year since 1991, but all of these Allen McDermott years, they've lost 2 in a row, at least once. Does it feel like, would you want to point to other years where we might have had some of these same kind of more heated sounding conversations? Even last year after Houston, Allen completes 9 passes in Houston last year, and for very small yardage. And maybe it was just like this. Does that sound generally right, or do you feel more like this year is different in certain ways?
No, I feel like that's generally accurate. I think we've had similar conversations in the past where they've figured it out. To me, the defense is kind of an unknown to me right now, just because we haven't seen Hoyt and Ogunjobi in Bills uniforms, and if they sure up the back end of the defense more and these guys grow and, play better on the back end, does that free up a Bosa who we haven't seen in towards the end of a season in a Bills uniform or playoff time? Does he become a game wrecker? There's a lot of unknowns. So I do feel like this is a similar conversation than, that we've had coming off back-to-back losses the last 5 years. This one, to me, more unknowns on the defensive side of the football.
Okay. Eric, who is putting you on the spot here? Maybe the answer is the Bills, which would make it easy. Who is the best team in the league right now?
To me, I'm probably giving that to Kansas City, with them getting Rashee Rice back and just understanding, who they have on that roster still. I certainly would put the Bills up there. Like the Indianapolises and that of the world, to me, I don't know. I just feel like, I'm not saying Daniel Jones is going to turn into a pumpkin, but I don't.
You're kind of waiting for it to happen, though, aren't you? I am too.
It could happen.
I am. I like the Rams. I like the Rams. I think they got a good squad. I think defensively, that young talent that they have is special. I'd probably say Kansas City, though. Who do you guys got?
It's tough. I mean, that's why I wanted to ask you. I watched Bet Sweats this morning. Sam Panayotovich, who was on with us every Friday, his answer was Tampa. I think he likes a hot take, but how many teams could you say reasonably are fair answers? Colts would have to be considered.
Yeah.
Detroit, I think, would have to be considered. Green Bay, even. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point, but
I like the Rams, too. I have always had a crush on Matthew Stafford going back to Georgia, and I also like some of the young guys. Verse, to me, is one of my favorite defensive players in the league to watch.
Yeah.
So
he's a stud.
I'm high on them.
To give you an answer, I might go Green Bay. But, I mean, that division is so tough. Everybody's got a winning record. Right. I don't know. Really tough.
So what does this week end up being like, Eric? I mean, are the coaches in the bunker here? I mean, obviously you're always going to work on yourself, but that comes at maybe an opportune time here with them losing these 2 games going into the break. And I don't know, like, how much different could things look when they get back on the field a week from Sunday?
I think it could look different, whether that's personnel changes or some schematic changes. Ultimately it'll look fairly similar, but whether Bills are on a 2-game losing streak or not, they were going to self-scout, look at tendencies, look at formational tendencies, whatever it may be on the bye week, and they have staff members looking at that each and every week. But the coaching staff's going to be heavily involved in all of that, and players get a chance to get away. Now, the NFLPA and the new CBA lets them get away longer than we used to get away. I think we used to get a weekend off or whatever, and I think it's a minimum of 5 days now. But regardless, they'll get recharged. I'm sure there's conversations being had back and forth just because the players have a day off or have a chance to, do whatever they want. Doesn't mean that your position coach isn't going to be sending you clips and we need to work on this and get ready for this when we get back. So I'd assume there's a lot of communication going on because, this is a team that everybody in that building understands the window that they're currently in. It's not just Bills fans that are sitting here saying, hey, this is our window. The AFC seems more open maybe than it's been in a while, and maybe the league in general, they're seeing that too.
And you get a break, I imagine. I mean, is this going to be more golf, Disney? What's, if you don't mind telling us?
No, it is more golf. A buddy of mine belongs to a club down in Nashville, so I'm going to a member guest. But I'm bringing my wife with me. They have activities for the wife, so that I'm sure she wouldn't have cared if I went regardless, but we get to spend some extra time, just us two, this weekend.
Have your kids grown out of Disney?
No, they went this summer, and I'm sure at some point we'll be back.
I have to ask you every time. I don't know why I have to ask you every time. We shared it was a mutual interest there I haven't been in a few years.
No doubt.
There it is. Hopefully you don't have a fantasy team like mine that lost Ibuka, Puka Nakua, and Garrett Wilson on the same day. That was going really well.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm getting back Rashee Rice and George Kittle, which should help.
That definitely should help. If you've made it this far in your fantasy season alive with Rice on that bench, that's pretty good. And most, as Bulldog would tell you, most leagues, most sites don't let you put him on IR. Like he was not injured.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, good.
Correct.
Well, I'm glad you made it out of Atlanta. Thanks for today. Enjoy your break.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. You guys have a great week.
Thanks.
All
Eric
right.
Wood.
We'll catch up with Eric after